So if you're into flight simulation and you find yourself looking for a good controller, whether that's a yoke, whether that's a flight stick, joystick, you're not going to run into a shortage of options out there. This particular joystick is probably the most feature-packed for the price point. I'm going to use the term budget, even though the cost of this, and I'll give that to you now, is about $120. You may ask yourself, how is that budget? I'm going to explain that. If you try to replicate the functionality that you get here, you can't do it with just one controller. The Logitech 3D Extreme Pro is a very budget joystick. I've got one. It's not a bad product at all. That only gives you a lot of the basics though. And that comes in at roughly $35. Doesn't give you a real throttle. It has an axis, but it's not really good for that. Then you need the Logitech throttle quadrant to go with it. Well, that gives you 3 axes for throttle, for mixture, and for pitch, and 3 toggle switches. But that's it. You're not getting a trim wheel. You're missing out on a little bit. This particular controller gives you everything those 2 controllers plus a trim wheel would give you and a little more. So those other 2 controllers would run you about $95. And I'm not throwing in the price of a trim wheel. You'd have to find one because Logitech SciTech doesn't make an independent trim wheel anymore. So you would easily come in at that $120 price point if you went with those other controllers. That's kind of why I'm going with the word budget here. But let's get into the functionality because that's where this thing really, really shines. So this controller comes with some really unique features. So first, we'll start at the top. There is the LCD screen right there. Now this LCD screen actually allows you to control the functionality of the joystick. Now it does not control what's in the game. So it's not going to provide a readout of what's in the game. While that would be really cool, it's not here. This is only what's going on within the stick. Now right now it's telling me that I'm in the PC mode. It's telling me the axis and trimmer setup, and there's a chronometer that you can utilize. So if you are timing yourself in an aircraft, like, mark time to the turn, you can use this as a chronometer. It's a cool feature. But as we move down the joystick, you have H1 and H2 hats, so 2 independent hats. H1 turns your head left and leaves it there. I can also turn my head forward and leave it. I can turn my head to the right and leave it. H2 slews your view, and then you come back. As we move down, you have these left and right buttons, which are kind of nice. But then we get to this really unique feature, and I'll move the joystick out of the way here. If you look up right there, if you notice the screen's moving a little now, it's moving because this is a touchpad. Basically, it's a very small trackpad. It's about 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. Really hard to get used to using, but it's still a cool feature. That you get probably the best feature on this whole joystick, at least to me, the trim wheel. You have a trim wheel built in to the joystick. You have a typical trigger on the front, and as you move lower, you can actually swap this, I don't even know what you'd call it, but this base, you can swap to the other side to make this ambidextrous. So it's a left-hand controller, it's a right-hand controller, it's whatever you need it to be. Then we run into these particular levers, which are kind of awesome. These levers have removable handles, so you can swap them around, you can print your own, you can do all sorts of craziness. You can also control what these axes are. Now out of the box, they are programmed to do certain things. you don't have to leave it that way. I've changed this to make this general aviation friendly for me. So over here, I have the mixture, and here I actually have my my throttle. I've put my flaps on these two buttons here for flap raise, flap lower, and I have a quick start button here that I configured that allows me to turn everything on in the aircraft I need to start the plane. So instead of having to go through and touch everything or use my mouse on the screen, this one button does it all for me. I have the brakes configured over here as well. There's just anything you want to do with these buttons, you can absolutely do. Now, if you're an Xbox player, this has you covered as well because you can shift from PC to Xbox. But another great feature, not quite as good as the trim wheel, but pretty good, is not only the fact that you can use this as a rudder, fairly common feature, I get that. But when you combine the rudder with using these two buttons as toe brakes, you can now do some pretty precision taxiing because you have toe brakes right there by your thumb. And probably the last outstanding feature that you don't find in every joystick out there is this little port down here. There's a pass-through for a headset. Yes, indeed. And here is the Turtle Beach headset. Now, I will tell you I'm not a huge fan of their headset, and I'll show you why here in a second. But plugs right in. So I'm only using one USB connection on the laptop. If you're using this with a portable setup or a small setup or just a laptop, it's important to get as much as you can out of this. It's important for there to be pass-throughs on here because most modern laptops just don't have a lot of connections on them. Now, this is a gaming laptop. This is an Asus ROG tough gaming laptop, A16, Ryzen 7000 series. We got the Radeon 7790 graphics card, but I've only got two USB-C connections on this side and two USB 3.0 connections. So 4 connections maximum, all I can do. If I plugged in a USB headset, I would take up another port on here. And I actually have a mouse plugged in on the other side. So I wouldn't even have a place for a traditional USB headset. Having that right there, I just kind of love it. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, instead of talking your ear off, I'm going to change the view of the camera. I'm going to have it watch the joystick, and I'm going to have the other camera that I have set up aimed at the actual screen so you can see the joystick versus what I'm doing as I'm flying. And I'll kind of point to and talk about the functionality of the different pieces parts as I'm flying. So let's get us going. So let's come down here. Set the parking brake. So with 2 buttons, I was able to bring the entire aircraft up. You actually watched my fuel cutout switch and all my rockers respond. And you can see we're rotating right there, which is nice. Our Garmin's are still coming up. So here in a second we will
you have information pop-up. Rodden, New London Airport, information pop-up. 0056 Zulu. Line 1004. Visibility 10. Sky conditions, clear. Temperature -4. Dew point -16. Altimeter 3041. Density altitude minus 2700 feet. Advise on course heading, altitude, and if flight following is requested. Read back all runway and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact you have information pop-up.
And
Run
then
New London Airport.
dial over ground.
0056 Zulu. Line 1004. Visibility 10. Sky conditions, clear. Temperature -4. Dew point -16. Altimeter 3041. Density altitude minus 2700 feet.
Okay, so now we're on Groton ground. Groton ground, Skyhawk 701 Lima Juliet with information Papa is ready to taxi.
Skyhawk 701 Lima Juliet, Groton ground. Taxi to runway 33 via Charlie Delta, cross runway 05 at your discretion. Contact tower on 125.6 when ready for departure. Roger, thank you.
TBM 5 Romeo Papa, copy that. When you're ready to taxi, advise with your current position.
Okay, so let's turn off our parking brake here, or release our parking brake. And now let's come hard right. Give us a little bit more throttle. And you can see here, I'm using the right toe brake while I'm turning the rudder, kind of aimed in the right direction. I think it was stuck there for a second. It was. Oh, that was weird. That has not happened before. You saw it here first. Now we're going to cross runway 23 here in a second, coming out to the taxiway. There's the taxiway right there. We're crossing at our discretion. Now here, if I actually did want to look left and right, I could look left. Okay, look left, nobody's coming. Look right, nobody's coming. Okay, good. Keep going straight across the taxiway via Delta here. Get us moving again. I slowed down a little too much. Going a little too fast there. Let's nice leisurely taxi.
125.6.
Contact tower 125.6, 701 Lima Juliet. And let's put on our parking brake. And now, let's make sure we go over to 125.6.
Cherokee 315, X-ray Papa, hold position, landing traffic on short final. Holding position, Cherokee 315, X-ray Papa.
125.6. Come back up. Groton Tower, Skyhawk 701 Lima Juliet, holding short, runway 33, ready for departure.
Skyhawk 701 Lima Juliet, Groton Tower, runway 33, wind 360 at 4, cleared for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, runway 33, 701 Lima Juliet. Thanks, have a good day. Alright, so let's give it a little throttle.
Skyhawk 701, runway 33, cleared for takeoff. Winds 360 at 4. Have a good day.
Here we go. And let's give ourselves a little bit of flaps here. And I will get a center line. And then I will hit the parking brake. And I will show you that we do indeed have 1 notch of flaps. I'll leave it at 1 notch. We are center line, we are good to go. Parking brake's on, we're going to take that off. So here we go. And you do need to give it some corrective rudder. And I'm still a novice when it comes to using the flight stick here to do this, but I do like the fact I have to do it. Airspeed is very alive, and we are rotating. Very nice. Put our flaps up, positive rate. So let's zoom out a little here. This way you can see that vertical speed. And as we, I'm going to take us up to about 1500, and then I'm going to show you that trim. So we're good there. So now we're going nose down. So let's trim it up a little.
Diamond 371 Bravo, Charlie, hold short of runway 31, awaiting further instructions.
Holding short of runway 31, Diamond 371 Bravo, Charlie.
And everything I'm doing right now is with the trim wheel. So now it is a little different than using a full-size trim wheel. On Microsoft Flight Simulator, I tend to use a full-size trim wheel. But the fact that I do have that trim there, I'm very happy with. And you can see I've got it decently trimmed. It's not perfect, but it's okay. Okay, so we're not going to fly straight in. We're actually going to come over a little and then come up. And we're going to dial over to the CTAF. Westerly traffic. Skyhawk 701 Lima Juliet is on final. Runway 7. Westerly traffic. All right. And here you can see the nose is going way down. So I can actually use the trim wheel to bring that up. Let's give ourselves some flaps. We'll get lined up a little bit better here. There we go. There we go. We're doing okay now. A little bit off sides, but we're okay. You know, so the weird part here is having to use both hands on your toe brakes. It's kind of weird. It's a little unique thing there. But I will show you what is really cool is how sharp I'm able to turn here by using the rudder and my thumb on that button as a toe brake. Again, if I think I'm going too fast, use my toe brakes. Make an extreme turn here, and let's park over there. And kind of right there. Now we overshot. Oh well. So let's put on the parking brake, and if I really want to do it, basically power down the aircraft. So there you kind of have it, a very functional joystick, throttle mixture, plenty of buttons to control most of what's going on in your cockpit. The dual hats, just outstanding. The trim wheel, really functional. I'm really a fan of it. The rudder, as you can see, I was able to control I made some very precise turns in that video. And then configuring these as my toe brakes is really awesome. The only thing that's awkward for me is having to hit them both at once. But still pretty great. No complaints whatsoever. Would I buy it again? Absolutely. This is going to be my go-to travel buddy when it comes to Microsoft Flight Simulator on the go when I'm traveling for work. The fact that one peripheral allows me to hook up my microphone, slant headset, and control all of this and only take up one USB slot, it's just really changed things for me. And it's only one thing I'm carrying. I'm not carrying a joystick and a throttle quadrant and a trim wheel and a USB hub, because right there I took 3 devices and I've only got 2 USB 3 connectors. So this is really slimming down what I travel with. So huge fan of it. Big thumbs up for the Velocity One Flightstick. If you're in the market for a good solid controller, whether it's for an Xbox or a PC, and you don't really want to spend too much, this is the guy. You notice I don't have a yoke, I don't have rudder pedals, I don't have a throttle quadrant. I just got this, and it's working like a champ. And when I say that, kind of, look at who's saying it to you, because I believe in overkill normally. If you look at my other channel, if you look at my cockpit setup, where I have a yoke, a custom built throttle quadrant, a custom built trim wheel, I have the entire switch panel that I built. I have all the avionics. I have everything. I have the fuel select, the cut. I have every single control in a Cessna 172 in my setup. And this right here does a great job as a standalone product. Couldn't be happier with it. I did set it up for general aviation, so as a disclaimer, you will need to do a little bit of setup when you first break it out of the box and you first decide to use it. I love this thing. And my last save round / alibi is, this is an unsolicited, unpaid review, because I purchased this myself. Turtle Beach doesn't even know I exist, nor do they care. I'm just a flight sim enthusiast, hopefully like you, and I really wanted something I could travel with, and this guy fits the bill. So hopefully that flight showed you something, and my long-winded ranting helped in some way. Thanks for watching. Hope this answered some questions. Maybe you saw something out of this you haven't seen before. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. I hope you have a great day.